What is this, dude? Top secret U.S. government tunnels. All right, I'll bite.
Since I was a kid
I'll bite.
growing up at the height of the Cold War, I've been fascinated by the deepest, darkest
Me too,
secrets
man.
of our government. What weren't they telling us? Some people believe there's a huge government secret hiding right beneath our feet. An entire network of military bases and top
Every
secret
time I see that, I just
facilities
think
under the
Fallout.
ground. But is there any evidence of this massive subterranean layer?
Is something going on down there that we don't know about?
Absolutely.
We know that the military started moving underground during the Cold War, back in the 50s and 60s.
That's the end
Honestly,
of the
I
world right
feel
there.
like the move to go underground is the best move.
And rumors that started in 1955 about an underground base called Area 51 were only confirmed by the FBI in 2013.
This is intense.
But some suspicious line items in the military budget,
There's about $50 billion for classified programs.
and even more suspicious patents that were purchased by the federal government,
They're using heat to tunnel through and melt
Using
rock.
heat.
Oh, man!
This is science fiction to me.
could indicate that there's way more happening beneath the surface than we ever imagined.
Patrolled by military dog teams. That is top secret stuff.
I actually,
So I'm headed
got in a lot of trouble. So I used to live on Fort Knox when I was little, and I guess it was like 13, 14, something like that. They came on Fort Knox during I think it was actually New Year's celebration, and Leonard Skinner was playing, and all of my friends thought it was the coolest shit ever. And it wasn't that far away. It was like a mile down the road, but it was past curfew, and so what do we do? While everybody was getting sauced, we snuck out, grabbed our bikes, rode them down to the creek. We saw like two cops patrolling, but we just went off to the side, and we ditched our bikes in this creek. And there's two lines of fences. There's a line of fence here, a road, and then another line of fence uh on the other side. And it was dark, but we could hear the music very clearly. We're getting closer. And so we find a hole on this side, and we go through it. We go across the road, and we find a hole on the other side, and we notice that it's just a flat field, and we're like, all right, bet. We're gonna go through the flat field. We'll stay, we'll stay hidden, and nothing bad will happen, right? And we'll get to party and be edgy preteens, uh, hanging out and listening to Leonard Skinner. I don't know what's so cool, but in our minds, that was the epicenter of cool guy shit. And we should have known something was up because it was a field with like six different lights. Thank you. And they were all facing like out and up. They weren't facing down. They were facing out, so you couldn't see what was in the middle of this field, and it was dark, right? Um, we just thought like, oh, it was just weird military lighting, like they do shit for no reason, like for like reasons you don't know. Didn't think that there was anything in the middle of that field where the lighting was pointing away from. But we go there, and we're walking, everything's fine. And then all of a sudden you hear like sirens go off. And we're like, is that for us? No way it's for us. We're just out past curfew. There's no way. Why would they be doing that for us? And sure as shit, man, you hear like trucks pulling up. You hear dogs being let loose, and the dogs freaked us out, man. When they set those dogs on us, it was like you heard like six dogs, and they were all barking, and they were getting close really fast. And as soon as the dogs were out, I was dumb enough to keep going. Right? Like me and my buddy, we were gonna keep going. And my buddy Michael looks at us and goes, "Those dogs are coming for us. We need to leave." And thank God he said that shit. We turned around and we left as fast as we could. And my buddy, I think his name was Jordan at the time. Jordan got took down. Like Jordan was behind me, and then he wasn't. So we didn't see him until like Monday at school. Um, but yeah, so we ran through this empty field on Fort Knox and got underneath this fence, got back over the road, the highway or whatever, and then went back through the creek. And when we went through this creek, there were cops everywhere, man. You know, like in the beginning, there was like one or two cops like surveying, like patrolling. There were cops everywhere, like 30 of them. And so, right, we're like 11, 12, whatever, and we're sneaking our way back through our house. We're like walking our bikes through this creek bed in the middle of the night, past curfew on Fort Knox, just watching police go up and down the roads like canvassing. And I mean, I made it back to my house just fine. Michael made it to his house. And we were just gonna pretend like nothing happened. And my mom and dad call the house and they're like, "Hey, where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm at the house. What's up?" And they're like, "Come on over to Michael's house." So I'm like, "Okay, cool. It's New Year's celebration or whatever celebration it was." I walk over there. There are just lights. I mean, it looks like a rave. There are so many cops at Michael's house. I knew we were busted. They had already talked to my parents. The main guy who was there was like a good family friend of ours that um was, I guess, running the investigation or whatever. And so he was like, "Hey, where were you this night?" And I was like, "Oh, we were just hanging out." He's like, "Yeah, yeah. Were you going to the Leonard Skinner concert?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Yeah, you need to go ahead and come confess up." And so I told him what happened and what I saw, and I was expecting him to like yell at me and shit. And he's like, "And that's all you saw, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's all I saw. There's a field, and then there was a bunch of dogs, and like ran back through the thing." Next morning, I went back. Both holes were patched, and there were cameras up. Well, I don't know if both holes were patched because the one that I went through to get to the other one was patched, and I never heard anything else about it. Never heard nothing. He said nothing to me. Didn't yell at me, none of that crap. Didn't give me any information. Just, okay, cool. Don't do that again. Don't ever do that shit again. Or you'll go to jail, I think is what he said. Which fucking freaked me out. And my parents just kind of stood there and watched. And then we didn't talk about it ever again. Fucking weird.
Deep into the underworld.
I think it was the
See what I
gold
can
vault.
find out.
I think, like, it was either the gold vault or it was like a staging area. So there was something like really, really. There was something I wasn't supposed to see there, but you know, it is what it is.
The Eagle has landed. And this is just the beginning.
Right beneath our feet, there are cities. Hidden by time, they hold the clues that could rewrite history.
Into the abyss, huh?
I'm Don Wildman, and my mission is to explore the farthest and deepest reaches of our planet using cutting-edge technology.
How cool is that?
To dig into the greatest mysteries.
I
of
always
our
thought the
past.
French catacomb cool. I can't believe that shit exists. Like the whole city underneath the sewers in France.
Going deep into the cities of the underworld.
I used to go to grade school, and it's just like fire drills, we would do duck and cover drills, which were for nuclear attack, which was ridiculous when you consider the fact that no way is anybody surviving this
Now
thing,
it's shooter
much
drills.
less 8-year-olds with their jackets over their heads in the basement. But those are the kinds of things that were part of life in the 50s and the 60s. The imminence of nuclear holocaust is much less a daily thought on the average American's mind today than it was when I was young.
The Cold War is long over, but some declassified relics from that era may show that the nuclear threat from Russia was just the beginning of a secret underground that only top-level officials in the government know about. Usually, when I go into the underworld, I'm rappelling into murky caves.
That's like one of my favorite songs, and I was like, is Spotify playing right now?
Or squeezing through tight crevices in some ancient ruin. But this is going to be different. An underground world built in secrecy with high-level military technology. And I couldn't be more excited. My first stop is in the Arizona desert, at one of the many decommissioned Titan II missile sites that exist across the country.
Wow, it smells like a military base, doesn't it? Yes.
These missile silos were underground structures built during the Cold War, constructed to house an arsenal of nuclear warheads to deter the Russian threat. And it was all done in total secrecy.
This is intense. How far underground are we at this point?
We're 35 feet.
Wow. You worked in this silo.
Yes, during the height of the Cold War.
What was that like? What did that feel like?
It was boring
and scary
at the same time. Kind of had the weight of the world on your shoulders.
You were aware of that feeling.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
David Haratunian was a Titan II ballistic missile analyst during the Cold War. His job was to wait for this phone to ring, and if it did, he'd put this key into this switch. and
Holy
launch a
shit,
nuclear
dude.
attack. And if it happened, it would have all taken less than
Hold
60
on.
seconds.
I thought there were supposed to be 2 keys, and that you had to have like 2 like general level people both like agree to it. There's just one dude just sitting in the silo who has the key at any point and just launch it when it. What the fuck? That does not seem safe.
How crazy is that?
So your day of work was to make sure that this thing was up and ready to go.
State of readiness, 24 hours a day. You thought you could launch at any moment. But the thing that was most upsetting about it was if we had the launch order, we knew an attack was coming, and we knew that all our loved ones would die.
The Titan II was built in 1961, when a telephone looked like this, a television looked like this, and a baby's car seat looked something like this. And yet, this secret underground facility had some insanely cool technology.
So this is the long cableway.
That's amazing.
This thing is built to be like a slinky, so we can move up and down, side to side. We had to be protected from the shock wave. It's
Yeah.
going to be like the world's worst earthquake if a nuclear detonation went off up
Right,
there.
right.
And it's a cableway because it's all the cables going from the control center to the missile.
The cableway is a massive version of the shocks in your car, designed to protect this entire underground base from any nuclear explosions above.
So you're down there 200 and some feet away from the rocket, which
What?
is up here.
So
This is the
are they protecting from nuclear explosions that they're deploying? Or do they think that they were going to get nuked by a nuke? Is this for enemy fire or for missiles that they launch themselves?
Silo, and this is the launch tube, and the missile sits in the launch tube, protected by that extremely heavy door. Man, that's hard.
Push.
Holy shit, dude.
Lord, look at that.
Holy shit.
That's crazy. Incredible. Wow.
There you go. So give me some read on what I'm looking at here.
It's 103 feet tall. It weighs 330,000 pounds fully loaded. It has 430,000 pounds of thrust, which is equivalent to two 747s at full throttle.
Wow. How fast does it take for this to get to its target in the
About
Soviet?
30 minutes. Going to go about 17,000 miles an hour.
Wow.
To put into perspective how ridiculously fast this Titan missile was, the commercial airplanes we fly in today, they go around 570 miles per hour top speed. So this nuclear missile flies about 30 times faster.
And what is the actual bomb?
It's a 9 megaton bomb, which is equivalent to 9 million tons of
Jesus.
TNT.
How does that compare to Hiroshima?
It's 600 times more powerful than Hiroshima.
Why?
Unbelievable.
I mean, I know
And
why,
how
but
many
goddamn.
facilities with this nuclear missile were ready to go on a single phone call?
54.
That's crazy.
Absolutely.
So in the case of nuclear attack, 54 Titan II missiles all lift off basically at the same time.
Only totally retaliatory, not a first strike weapon. If the Soviet Union launched against us, this was the deterrent. Mutually assured destruction. The 54 Titans
54
were
of
gonna
those
wipe out
motherfuckers.
54
Holy
of
shit.
their cities or military bases.
Yeah, that's where it just enters into a whole nother realm. I mean, it's just hard to conceive of that much destruction. And today, even more so.
Today more so, there's more of them, and they're more accurate.
Wow. So we're at the top of the missile. How far down is the bottom?
The bottom's 146 feet
Jesus.
down.
How crazy is that feeling to like look at a nuclear missile and be like, this is the end of the world? That would be terrifying, man.
Wow. That's insane.
This is where the engines
That
would
is
sit.
terrifying.
And that's the end of the world right there.
Holy shit.
This once top secret underground base was built in 1960. And the public had no idea that we had 54 weapons of mass destruction hidden deep below ground until 30 years later.
Fuck me.
So what else could our government be hiding today? One thing that caught the attention of the public was some very covert government activity in remote parts of the American West. Back in the 50s, the government prohibited the public from entering a fenced-off region of the Nevada desert called Area 51. Around the same time, there were numerous sightings of unidentified flying objects nearby. And so the theories began. They're conducting experiments on aliens, or reverse engineering a downed spacecraft. And the theories get wilder and wilder the deeper you go down the wormhole.
I mean, there's definitely something there, right? If there wasn't something there, then the whole storm in Area 51 wouldn't have been met with machine guns and armored personnel.
Mankind should be alarmed.
One thing we certainly know is that the government denied Area 51's existence until a Freedom of Information Act request in 2013. They admitted that since the 1950s, an underground base at Area 51 has been developing secret weapons and spy planes. So what about the aliens? We may never know, because all current activities at the base are classified. And the government seems to be remarkably good at keeping secrets. So what I'm curious about is what else is hiding down there? And how massive could a U.S. secret underground
I'd be
actually
terrified
be?
to work at like a secret base because I just feel like after you work there,
There you
they
go.
just find a way to kill you.
Warning, U.S.
Keep
Air
the-
Force installation.
Keep the secret safe, you know?
Unlawful to enter. Patrolled by military dog teams. That is Nellis Air Force Base right in there.
but we're not going inside because this fence defines the whole perimeter of the place. This is one of many military installations throughout the state. Top secret stuff.
Just a quick dune buggy trip outside of Las Vegas takes us to this location, which may be the origin of our government's fascination with secret underground operations. In the early 50s, this is where some of the first nuclear weapons were developed and tested. Back in Vegas, the mushroom clouds were so visible that a new phenomenon known as atomic tourism exploded on the street.
Bro, that is wild.
Restaurants and bars would organize happy hour watching parties. So the tourists were having a blast. But eventually, the nuclear explosions were also enjoyed by enemy satellites. And the U.S. feared that Russia was collecting valuable intel about our nuclear capabilities. So the military took the entire operation.
Hey, babe, you want to take the kids down to Las Vegas and watch nuclear bombs go off? Holy shit, dude.
Performing nuclear tests below. This site is still operational, but you'd never know it from above ground, and only a classified few know the true scope of the operations. But locals have reported military vehicles disappearing into the earth. And there's rumors of a network of hidden labs and tunnels stretching for miles in every direction.
There you go. You got military here, and you've got this theory that the underground is more than meets the eye. We can't go in here, and we can't know, quite possibly, what's under there until we go looking for it.
I'm wondering if there's any modern technology that might show whether this secret
That's a good way to end up on a list, bro.
Could actually exist.
That is a good way to end up on a list.
We found out after the Cold War that the U.S. government constructed top secret missile silos and nuclear testing facilities underground. Now, 70 years later, some believe that these operations still exist, and that there might be even larger underground bases the public doesn't know about. It's fascinating, but is it possible?
No.
To learn more about how one of these underground bases could actually be constructed, I've come to Fort Wayne, Indiana, to explore the underworld with Lance Waddell, chief engineer of the Three Rivers Tunnel Project, to get an idea of how these underground bases could be made.
The Eagle has landed.
Is it even possible to do a gigantic engineering project underground in total secrecy?
You don't really get the perspective until you're down here. How deep is this thing?
Damn.
240 feet. My lord. And this is just the beginning. What's that?
That is St. Barbara. We always have her underground where the work is because she's the patron saint of miners.
How worried are you about things going wrong?
You get used to it after a while.
Well, look at you. You can deal with it.
Hear that rumbling sound? That's the locomotive coming out. That's our ride.
Fuck that, dude.
I didn't buy a ticket, but okay.
Good, Martine.
That is massive, man.
The tunnel system that Lance and his team are digging is 5 miles long and 19 feet in diameter, running nearly 20 stories below the surface. When it's done, 850 billion gallons of sewage overflow will run through it every year, instead of into one of the 3 rivers above. While this isn't a secret government tunnel, I'd like to find out how they're building this public project to see if you could even dig a tunnel system like this without anyone above ground knowing about it. So,
This is a sewage runoff? That's crazy.
beast.
Whoa! My bad.
Following you. Everything we're we're seeing is the machine itself. It's basically a 400-foot-long worm working itself through the earth. And as it goes, it's building its own tunnel behind it.
I'm actually inside the TBM, the tunnel boring machine that's used to dig this kind of massive tunnel. This thing is longer than a football field, and the machine actually constructs the tunnel
That's smart.
as it moves through the earth.
This is a probe drill. So the machine cuts a 19-foot diameter hole.
Okay.
There's 7 of these motors, and when they're all pushing, driving that machine, it's up to 8.4 million pounds of force.
Wow. So what happens to the rock it carves away?
As the rock is cut up, it falls into the bottom of the excavation chamber, and it's mixed with water slurry mix, and it's pumped all the way to the surface, then hauled out.
Makes sense.
Tons and tons of debris.
About 35 tons an hour.
Really?
The huge cutting face is obviously an effective tool when it comes to digging a tunnel. But 35 tons of debris an hour being shot back up to the surface would make it impossible to dig a network like this in secret. To get rid of all that debris, you'd need an endless parade of dump trucks hauling the rubble away. Between that and the expansive worksite itself, enemies could easily monitor a tunnel project
Unless
from
you
spy
piped
satellites.
it all the way somewhere else, right? Unless the slurry pipeline just went like hundreds of miles somewhere else.
So, looking into this theory that the U.S. government and military have a top secret network of underground bases, they need to create a very different technology, one that doesn't produce a mountain of debris on the surface. As far as I know, there's no drill that can make rock and dirt evaporate into thin air. Or is there?
Method and apparatus for tunneling by melting.
But it doesn't melt. Like, it isn't. I mean,
Since
it
the
melts, but it
1950s,
doesn't, like,
the U.S.
poop,
government has
right?
built underground structures and kept them secret from the public. In the last 70 years, we found out about a few. But the Cold War kid in me wants to know what else they could be hiding beneath
No
their
way.
feet. We've seen that the method of tunneling used for public projects would be impossible to keep secret. So I'm meeting up with David Childress, an author and researcher, who spent decades looking into the deepest, darkest secrets of the U.S. government. David says he may have the smoking gun that shows how the secret underworld is being built.
All around the Nellis Air Force Base and Area 51 is a vast network of tunnels. And many of these tunnels are in the base, but some of these tunnels and entrances go outside the base. Since the 1950s, the locals in that area have reported seeing convoys of military vehicles driving down the road and then just suddenly disappearing.
On one hand, it doesn't surprise me. It's a military base. It's very secretive.
And it's huge, too.
Right.
What I want to know is, could someone create a massive underground base without anybody knowing about it?
They do have the technology. This is a 1972 patent from DARPA.
United States patent, September 26, 1972. Method and apparatus for tunneling by melting. Melting. So they're using heat to actually tunnel.
They're using heat to tunnel through and melt rock. In a normal tunneling device, you would have a lot of rubble coming out the back.
Yeah.
And you would need tons of trucks and things like that to haul all this rubble out.
Of course, yeah.
But with the thermonuclear tunneling device, you don't need that. It's very clean. It doesn't create a lot of waste and rubble.
It sounds science fiction to me. I mean, this is sci-fi stuff.
He fucking loves it, dude.
So each
You
mile
could
of
tell.
the tunnel,
You
20
can tell that
feet
old
in
bastard
diameter,
fucking
creates
loves this shit. He is drinking the Kool-Aid. He's at the meetings. Like, he's on the board. This dude loves this shit.
enough rubble to fill 18 Olympic-sized swimming pools. But according to this patent, which was purchased by the U.S. government, huge tunnels can be dug deep underground with zero debris. Here's how it works. The nuclear reactor inside heats the drill tip to over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. 6 hydraulic cylinders with 18 million pounds of thrust push the drill through the earth, turning all of the rock into glass that lines the walls of the tunnel. This is absolutely mind-boggling, if it actually exists.
What you're suggesting, thanks to this technology, is that there's a vastness to this that we're not aware of, not to mention a depth, and that it's totally secret because there was no evidence of this being done.
That's right. It's a vast network that runs throughout the entire U.S., from the East Coast all the way to California.
What would be the purpose
Thank you,
of this?
sir.
We
Appreciate
have a
you.
network of
Later.
underground bases, and then there are tunnels that are connecting them, starting in Washington, D.C.
No kidding.
Yeah. Even if Washington, D.C. is a radioactive wasteland, these guys can still be in charge and in touch with various parts of the military from these underground bases.
I mean, I still don't know if it truly works, but here it is in a United States patent. It's crazy.
In theory, this drill could create a massive network of subterranean tunnels and bases in total secrecy. But that's in theory. Could it actually work? I've reached out to the smartest man I know, world-renowned geologist Eric Drummond.
You got it all going on here.
Yeah, we got a rock here, brought in from the field, got a drill here, and we'll do some drilling.
I sent Eric the nuclear drill patent, and he designed an experiment to see if it could possibly work.
So we're going to compare basically old drilling versus new drilling.
Yes.
All right, let's get down to it.
First, we'll replicate traditional hard rock drilling, like the kind we saw back at Three Rivers, using an extremely scaled-down drill bit and a scaled-down chunk of rock.
I got a Charlie horse. There we go.
Nice.
We've made a tunnel and we made a mess.
Yes, we did.
If this was a mountainside and this was a big tunnel, I mean, this is just piles and piles of the stuff. If you're going to try to be sneaky about it, if you're just sort of doing it under the radar, this is not the way to go.
Right.
Now we'll try to do a scaled-down version of the nuclear drill that leaves no rubble behind.
So what do we have here, Andrea? What is that?
It's a plasma torch.
We'll fire up the plasma torch to around 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature of the patented nuclear drill bit. I want to see if that technology can create a tunnel that leaves no evidence.
Oh, man!
That was almost too easy. That's amazing. I mean, it went right through that rock, and I don't see any kind of debris around.
Dude, that is
Look how
terrifying.
clear
Holy
that
shit.
is.
Yeah,
That's the glass.
What impressed me was Andrea went through this in mere seconds.
Exactly.
Like that.
That's-
It took us, I don't know, 20 minutes to do with a conventional drill.
That's insane.
So there you go. I mean, that sells it pretty well to me. You can scale this up very easily, in my mind anyway, that this could create massive tunnel systems in a fraction of time with no debris. I mean, out of sight, out of mind, you could be doing this all over the place. As long as that, that technology exists. I mean, that's the leap. Assuming that a nuclear drill has been developed, then we've got our answer. And that basically proves it right there.
Yeah.
And you just reinforce it like the other fucking drill. With the stuff going behind it. Making the solid tunnel.
It's no secret that the U.S. government has underground facilities they built during the Cold War.
It's a 9-megaton bomb, which is equivalent to 9 million tons of TNT.
But some people believe the U.S. has a secret underground that's much more expansive than we know.
It's a vast network that runs throughout the entire U.S.
In 1972, the government bought a patent for a nuclear drill that would allow them to dig underground spaces incredibly fast, and without anyone knowing what was happening deep beneath the surface.
It went right through that rock.
In mere seconds.
But here's the big question. Why would they do this? And what would this secret underground even look like? To find out, I'm headed to West Virginia.
West Virginia. Oh, this is the White Springs. I know this place. I know this place very well.
Don, how are you today? This place is amazing.
I know this place a lot.
It dazzles the eyes.
That's right. That's right.
Welcome to the Greenbrier, a 5-star luxury resort in White Sulphur Springs.
It's still grand, but back in the day, this was one of the premier places.
Oh, yeah.
This hotel was a hotspot for celebrity weddings and high society types.
It would be cool to go there.
But for years, it had a big secret hiding beneath its shiny exterior.
This makes me want to play
To
Fallout
find out
Fallout
what it
76.
is, you need to go over
I can't believe they're in the
700
White
feet
Springs.
into the ground. The Greenbrier was built in 1913.
It
But
looks
in
exactly like in the game.
The resort entered into an agreement with the United States government, and a new construction began. The hotel would add another wing, complete with new rooms and an exhibition hall. But meanwhile, underneath, the government would covertly construct a secret fallout shelter for high-ranking government officials that no one in the public would know about until over 30 years later, when in 1992, a journalist exposed the secret. This humongous 2-story bunker is the length of 2 football fields, extending 718 feet deep into
That's
the West
crazy.
Virginia countryside.
You come out, what just looks like regular part of the hotel. Sure. But then it turns out,
There you go. Now this looks like a
Holy
nuclear
shit,
bunker.
look at that door, man.
So this is the door that protects
Look
it
at
all,
that
huh?
door.
25 tons of steel and concrete.
That's impressive. So this is the Cold War, let's say the Cuban
That's
Missile Crisis
crazy that that's
happens,
real
a
life.
Huge emergency event. And they would show up at this place,
Right.
and they're stashed in here for an indefinite period of time. And at that point, they're sealed shut.
That's nuts that that's
yeah.
real life.
Well, this would be a very, very bad day. Insane. All right, so this is where you really get a sense of the scope of this operation.
Yes. This is the part that the government had exclusive control over.
Beyond that big door, only people with top-level
That's
clearances
so cool.
will be allowed in by the U.S. military, who controlled the facility. This tunnel leads to a complex that would house more than 1,000 people for over 6 months. The bunker had 18 dormitories crammed with bunk beds,
Just room after room.
along with a power plant with purification equipment, 3 25,000-gallon water tanks, and an infirmary.
How many people were going to live down here?
1,100.
Interesting. I mean, they didn't know about this plan. They were just told at the very last minute, sorry, this is where you're going, come with us.
Yes.
Ooh, my lord. Wow, what's this place?
So if somebody had been exposed, you take your clothes off and they go in here, then they're going to burn them.
Okay.
And then all you need is high pressure water to just wash that off.
Talking about radiation?
Car wash.
Exactly. And then this room had all the supplies, so everybody's going to be in fatigues.
To imagine coming down to this level of wearing fatigues and, you know, quite a shock to the system psychologically.
Yes.
They're not with their families.
Right.
They're worried about their health.
Right.
Everything precious has possibly been lost. Who knows? Maybe the country is occupied at this point.
That uncertainty. You don't really know what's going on out there.
It's quite an amazing situation to imagine.
Yes, it is a terrifying scenario.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to know that smarter people than myself have contingencies worked out for even the most devastating of circumstances.
That is nuts, man. I think everybody has that to a certain extent, though, right?
But who exactly
Like,
was this
everybody
elaborate
has, like, a
shelter?
certain level of, like, wanting to keep some level of control and some level of certainty over their future. I feel like that's normal. Like, I think about it relatively frequent, you know? Like, how am I gonna if things go to shit? How do I protect myself? I think that that's something that most people would think about, every so often.
Built for.
Oh, that's amazing. Look at that. There are hundreds of seats in here.
There are 435 seats in here.
435, the amount of
The House of Representatives.
There you go.
All right.
So this is for the Congress.
Yes, and then there's a smaller room on the other side for the Senate. This was an emergency relocation center for the legislative
That is
branch of the
nuts.
federal government. This was one component
Below a
of the
hotel.
continuity of government program.
At the onset of the Cold War, President Harry Truman signed into law a program that directed all branches of government to form an emergency plan in case of nuclear attack. He ordered each branch to prepare a secure location that would permit the continued operation of government in a time of crisis.
So the separation of powers is behind this whole thing. Even in the face of nuclear disaster, the U.S. government still has to be maintained as the structure that's in the Constitution.
Exactly.
So the story of this place is really hiding in plain sight in the biggest sense of the word.
For sure.
And right under everyone's nose, this bunker remained a total secret for over 30 years, until 1992, when at the end of the Cold War, it was decommissioned
That's
and
nuts.
declassified. But it's a glimpse into how these underground facilities are designed, and the government's anticipation of their need, emergency or otherwise. And given the revolutionary advancements of science and engineering over the last 70 years, maybe even with nuclear
He does
powered
make a
drilling
pretty
technology,
good argument
what would the secret nuclear facilities of today look like? How advanced?
that there's like some
And how much
massive
more
secret
massive
underground
would they be?
base. But for what? I don't think that if they were to make a underground base today, I just don't feel like it would be for defense. I don't feel like it would be reactionary at all. I think it would be to chase or to achieve some goal. Like Area
From
51.
underground nuclear missile silos, test sites, and bunkers designed to move the entire government underground. There's already an underworld right here in the U.S. But how many sites are there? To find out, I'm meeting up with Todd Harrison, who analyzes the defense budget every year.
That's a good
Could
way
there
to
be
get yourself
something
on
in
a
the
list,
budget
man.
that
Holy
tells
shit.
us the scope of this secret underground?
What percentage of budgets eventually get seen?
Very few, actually, but you can see some. If you look at the budget documents today, you can actually see which line items are going for classified programs. And there's about $50 billion out of that defense budget that is marked as being for classified programs. And
See, I always just thought that there was just an insanely immense amount of money that was just being laundered through the defense budget. I feel like that's a reasonable take, right? But if they're actually using all of the money that is going to the defense budget, that's insane.
Some people call this $50 billion secret fund the black budget. Sounds mysterious, right? I actually thought it more likely to be fodder for conspiracy theory chat rooms rather than a reality.
Is there such a thing as a black budget?
There is. That's the classified budget. It's black. You can't see in there. You can't see all of the details unless you have the proper clearances. You can see lots of interesting code names like Tractor Rut. A lot of them that begin with tractor. But you can't see precisely what it's been used for. What we can tell is, like 40, 50 years ago, things have been declassified now. And we now know that we were investing a lot of money into figuring out how to build and operate a spy satellite.
Interesting. I'm thinking about what's happening underground. Advanced military technology, black or otherwise. Have you ever heard of such a thing as a nuclear-powered drill? I mean, big-time drill?
I have not, but that's not that different than a nuclear weapon that's designed to penetrate the ground before
What
it
the hell?
detonates. We have those.
Sure.
They could take that technology and through classified programs try to apply it to the subterranean world.
Sure. Nuclear powered drills, man. Christmas is coming.
Maybe.
Why would you want a nuclear bomb that digs into the earth before it explodes? Unless you're trying to blow something up that's underground. Not only are we making bunkers, we're trying to make weapons that penetrate other people's bunkers. Holy fuck.
Some of that
That's
$50
nuts.
billion of secret money on a nuclear drill for building a massive underground through other methods? Todd's research may not be able to confirm that just yet. But we are learning that as more and more intel is declassified, it's clear that virtually all black budget spending is for weapons and defense. And while we know that a lot of the military brass in the 1950s had their eyes to the sky, Paul Scharr, VP and Director of Studies at the Center for a New American Security, believes the battlegrounds of today are in the underworld.
How much is tunneling?
Dude, it feels like there's so much. There's just so many war fronts.
The U.S. built underground command.
You've got information, you've got traditional, you've got underground now, you've got cybersecurity, you've got space. Holy shit.
Nuclear war with the Soviet Union, but the Army's been reinvigorating that for urban warfare. We certainly saw ISIS and Al Qaeda in Iraq go underground. The Army is preparing.
I don't think that that's true at all.
And that's going to be something the military is going to have to be prepared for against major threats like North Korea.
Dude, I don't think that's true at all. Like we are not building these devices to go hunt down people in caves. They just talked about a nuclear bomb that tunnels into the earth before it explodes. You are going after advanced first world nations with this shit.
Ability to build big tunnel complexes under these very large cities, very, very difficult terrain to fight in.
Paul says that North Korea alone has at least 4,800.
They can't even feed their people. Like,
and
what are you talking about?
The United States is almost 100 times larger. So it makes sense that the U.S. would have hundreds, if not thousands, more underground facilities besides the ones we know about.
I mean, that part I believe. That part I 100% believe.
The undergrounds have always given a fighting force a massive advantage. It's only going to get larger now that it's easier to build these things on a much bigger scale. So we've got to be ready.
That's right. There's no question that underground is going to be part of warfare in the future. And certainly the U.S. Army has been investing heavily in finding ways to prepare for that.
America has always been in competition with both our enemies and our allies. From the space race to the nuclear arms race. If someone else has it, the U.S. wants a bigger and better version. So if other countries are building thousands of bases connected by elaborate underground tunnel systems, it seems obvious to me that we've got a whole lot more than we know hiding in the underworld.
The final chapter.
What started as a look into something that seemed like a conspiracy theory.
A network of underground bases and tunnels.
This guy's great. I like that guy. He's all about it, man.
Led me to learn that the U.S. government has been building underground military facilities since the 1950s. And we're not the only ones.
We certainly saw ISIS and Al Qaeda in Iraq go underground.
Russia and North Korea have thousands of underground military bases, and it seems likely that we do too, right under our feet. I've been given access to a military training facility in Indiana that's teaching our soldiers how to fight battles in this new frontier, the underworld. Combat below ground brings a whole new set of challenges, requiring a whole new set of technologies. I'm psyched to see how important fighting underground has become to our modern military.
Is it weird? Like, I feel like maybe, I don't know. It feels like in-person fighting in underground bunkers just isn't going to be a thing. Like, if there's a bunker, you're just going to blow it up, right? Like, that's the whole point of these weapons, is you just go in there and you blow it up. Where are they going to go? You know? You're going to go in there, kick down doors, go into a kill box, and, like, every underground bunker is going to be designed to be defended. They're bunkers. They're very good at defending. Why would you even consider underground combat with real life people, maybe robots? But it seems like a weird take.
Harshest environment. Yeah. We train for an extreme that may or may not ever happen. Yeah. When new information comes back or tactics change, we have to be able to innovate and change in a moment's notice.
This 1,000-acre facility prepares our military for underground fighting, both abroad and at home, if our enemies invaded our underground spaces and used them against us.
It's not just fighting, it's searching for people. It's searching for weapons caches. We train for everything.
Today, a small unit is running a search and rescue drill. They've agreed to let me live out my childhood dream of being G.I. Joe.
Ready for duty. Sergeant, what are we going to do?
Our situation we're coming into, we have a casualty in the vicinity of the subterranean complex here. We're going to make entry into the sub-T environment via this east entrance. We're going to locate and extract our casualty. Our enemy situation is unknown. We really don't know what we're getting into, so we're ready for anything. It might be a smooth day. Could be a little hairier of a day.
Knowing many other countries are prioritizing underground warfare, these training exercises help our soldiers learn the new skills and tech they need on the new battlefront. Now, what makes this exercise a test is the crew must safely find and recover an injured civilian in less than 60 seconds.
Go, go, go!
There could be booby traps down there. So we use things like night vision to make sure that we're not tripping over things.
In addition to night vision, soldiers are training with a state-of-the-art fighting tool designed specifically for underground warfare. Bat vision, a technology using echolocation to guide them through the dark, the exact same way a bat flies. It has heat sensors to locate booby traps, otherwise impossible to detect in a pitch-black tunnel. They're also training dogs to drop supplies from the surface. And of course, using all sorts of top-secret tech that my non-existent military clearance prevents me from seeing.
Got the casualty. Ready. One. Go. All right.
This whole thing kind of like, it goes back to what I was saying though, like, man, it's so easy. You wouldn't even have to be there to clear out that fucking squad. And they're saying the booby traps, like a couple claymores set up with you don't have to set them off. You don't even have to set them off. Claymore on there with a motion detection camera on the hostage, looking at the hostage. Rescuers come in, boop, everybody's dead, or at least injured, maimed, something like, I don't know, man. It seems so risky to be using people in these kind of situations.
All right. Mission accomplished. The man is rescued. Great work.
And think about it. These guys are getting trained on this shit. So there's only a certain set of people that are even able to go in there. They've got new technology, new gear, training, experience, all of that stuff. And they're so vulnerable, even after all of this stuff that they have. It's just crazy. There's got to be a better way.
The strategic commitment to building this underground tracks back to the Cold War, protecting us against this ultimate threat from abroad. Maybe this underground will keep this above-ground world
Doubt it.
safe.
Doubt it.
We can only hope.
The underground world is how you control the above world. We're becoming less safe by the day.
Whether or not the U.S. government ever developed the nuclear drill for secret tunneling,
Dude, that heat
we'll never
thing
know.
is crazy, though.
But it's clear that governments all over the planet are building a brand new world below ground. And there's every reason to believe the U.S. would be at the forefront of it all. So, does that mean a secret military base exists 200 feet below your house? Or below the streets you stroll on every day? Sorry, I can't answer that. Or they might have to kill me.
That is wild, man. That is crazy. It gives me a lot to think about, though. Like, God, the heat thing, man. The heat thing, I keep going back to that because it's just like, that's real. Like, that's an actual no shit advancement in technology. That's crazy.